Do you ever get the feeling that something just isn't adding up in Canada right now? Like your doctor's wait list is 6 months long, and somehow we're being told that the population only grew by 20,000 people? Meanwhile, you've got basement apartments packed with renters, schools overflowing, and shelters turning away people? What gives? Well, I'm about to take you behind the curtain of Canadian immigration, the numbers they quote, the ones they don't, and why your community feels like it's bursting at the seams, even when the data says it isn't. We're talking illegal housing, visa mills, non-permanent residents, policy failure, and yes, some really shady business. No spin here, just the truth. Let's jump into it. If you're finding this as eye-opening as I am, don't forget to like, share, and subscribe so we can get this word out to more people. So let's get down to the basics. Non-permanent residents. They're here with time-limited permission, often for work, study, or while awaiting an immigration decision. Let's expand on who they are. International students on study permits may be allowed to work part-time 20 hours a week with some temporary exceptions, often pay high tuitions and compete for rentals. Then we have temporary foreign workers, TFWs. On work permit includes everything from seasonal farm workers to technical healthcare professionals, usually tied to one employer. Then there are the asylum seekers, people who have applied for refugee status and are waiting on a decision. They may be given temporary work or study permits in the meantime. So, since we got that out of the way, let's zero in on the housing market. Non-permanent residents absolutely affect demand. They rent, they buy, they pack entire basements. Now that explains why the rental market went sky high, doesn't it? So now let's ask, do all the data that records population numbers include both permanent and non-permanent residents? For Statistics Canada's official population estimates, yes it does. But not all estimates you hear are the same. They may vary. For example, many provincial or municipal plans, like for schools and hospitals and housing, these are based on core population figures, which sometimes exclude non-permanent residents or rather underestimate their presence. That's why the federal government might claim that they plan for a 500,000 volume for a local hospital, for example, but the city is screaming that there's 750,000 people needing service and they are overwhelmed. Sound familiar? I know it does. Back to Statistics Canada, non-permanent residents are included in Canada's quarterly and annual population estimates as well. And let's elaborate. So when you hear Canada grew by 1 million people last year, a chunk of that, believe it or not, is non-permanent residents. In fact, non-permanent residents made up nearly half of that between 2023 and 2024 growth. Now, this is the question. Are these non-permanent residents, are they staying in Canada or did they pack up and leave? This might be the missing clue of the population confusion. According to Statistics Canada, in 2024, about 50,170 people immigrated from Canada. This is only for Canadian citizens and permanent residents. For non-permanent residents, roughly 745,306 people left compared to over 1 million who arrived, resulting in a net gain of 291,165 temp residents. So while permanent residents' net migration was positive, the temporary resident segment remained in surplus, though with fewer arrivals than the previous year. Just for reference, departures for non-permanent residents are 15 times higher than permanent residents. Now let's look at what happened in Canada for the first quarter of 2025 to clear up some more confusion. So let's look at permanent residents that arrived. That's 104,256. Now, the non-permanent residents that arrived are 685,400. So if you add those two numbers up, it comes to just under 800,000 people. I know in the headlines it's 817. I don't know if they made some revisions, but that's that figure. Now, let's look at the part that many don't stipulate. Non-permanent residents that left in the amount of 746,511 people. Guys, when you're reading headlines that's saying that a lot of people are leaving Canada in droves, this is the reason behind it. And then you have the immigrants that are adding on top of that departure with the permanent residents and citizens amounting in 17,410 people. And then we also have a natural decline in population that we have more deaths than births. Who's surprised on that figure? We minus 5,628 people from the total. So that gives us a net population change of just over 20,000 people, as per StatsCan. It's like we're operating a human revolving door. So while headlines bragged about welcoming 800,000 people, the net effect, much smaller. And that's why StatsCan reported only 20,000 people added to the population in 2025 for Q1. So next time you hear immigration numbers, ask yourself, is the data only tracking arrivals, and does it actually take into account the exits too? Because this too can affect the true reality of what's being reported. And let's keep in mind, markets can feel both soft and stable, depending on which group dominates the area. Now, let's talk about the impact of large influx of immigration that has soared in this country over the last few years. We are seeing, and let me add a disclaimer here, I think immigration is healthy for this country, but too much of one thing is never a good thing. Now, let's continue. Between 2022 and 2024, Canada brought in record-breaking numbers. Over 1.2 million people per year, including permanent and non-permanent residents. The problem, cities weren't ready. Federal immigration policy was completely disconnected from provincial and municipal planning. This resulted in a housing crisis that got worse, not better. Immigration was supposed to fuel the economy, but it outpaced home construction by 2 to 3 times. Rents surged 20 to 40% in many cities across the GTA. Some international students are literally living in tents or crowded basements. We have strain on public services, especially in healthcare. Wait times balloon, they're ridiculous. Many new arrivals can't even find a family doctor. Education with newcomer heavy school boards are bursting. Not enough teachers or portables. Many services still running 2010 levels. For example, Peel Region said they needed immediate federal funding just to house newcomers in emergency shelters. Like, that shouldn't happen. We have data gaps and insufficient planning. Non-permanent residents show up in huge numbers, then quietly leave, switch permits, or stay undocumented. Now that's a big problem. Municipalities can't plan properly because they don't know how many people are actually living in the area. Blind spots in the data, they literally lead to poor funding allocations, missed housing targets, and inadequate services. Clearly, we're seeing that. And let's not forget, we have international student and work permit loopholes. This is something that needs to close. The immigration system became privatized through colleges. Private colleges boomed by issuing student study permits on masses. Many were low-quality visa mills targeting tuition dollars, not education. Work permits were extended with almost no oversight. This turned into like a crazy system. It was a cash cow, not a citizen funnel. We also had social backlash. We have it, and immigration challenges. Canadians started to question, why can't my kid afford rent while the government flies in 1 million people? Why are services worse and yet we are adding more people and fast? Resulting in political polarization, rise in anti-immigration sentiment, and eroded trust in federal institutions. On the flip side, we have many non-permanent residents who are underemployed or unemployed. Immigrants facing long delays in credential recognition. Immigration increased GDP, but GDP per capita declined, meaning everyone's share of the pie got smaller. Translation, we got growth on paper, but individual prosperity, it shrank. And just like that, illegal activity blossomed by immigration waves. This should be really a story displayed everywhere. We have illegal rentals and shadow housing markets, resulting in a growing underground rental economy, unregistered basement apartments, overcrowded houses with 6 to 10 people per room, cash-only room rentals with no lease or oversight. This is where municipalities lost control of zoning. Like, this is nuts. For example, a detached home in Brampton, get this one, it found housing 28 international students across just 6 rooms. They were like sardines, and the city had no idea. And then we have these visa mills and immigration fraud with relaxed study permit rules, fake colleges, and ghost schools exploded. They operate legally on paper, but in reality, cash for visa schemes, students arrive, never attend class, overstay visas, or enter unauthorized work arrangements. This is out of control. Some consultants charge $20,000 per person to arrange admission into Canada, often under false pretenses. Now, let's touch upon those underground employment and exploitation. Many non-permanent residents, especially undocumented overstays, fall into under-the-table jobs, construction, cleaning, and warehousing, and hospitality. They're underpaid, uninsured, and unprotected. These workers often get packed into illegal units, drive up housing density, and artificially inflate rental demand while suppressing wage growth. Like, this needs to stop. And this also causes money laundering in real estate markets like BC and Ontario, where there is dirty money problem. Large sums of foreign capital move through real estate as a laundering vehicle. This undoubtedly drives up prices, removes inventory, distorts CMHC and municipal planning data. The best part of all of this is not unknown to the government in Canada. Canada has bloated bureaucracy. Even the simplest change requires moving Mount Everest just to be heard. And this is why videos like this need to be shared far and wide. We need some serious change. It shouldn't be like that. We should have a fraction of our government, in my opinion. Recently, Danielle Smith, the Premier of Alberta, says they want to control the immigration level coming into their province and assess them on their economic value. I really like that idea. I think more control should be on the province specifically, not federally. I mean, let's face it, who knows better than the very people that live in that province? And I believe that more voices in that area will be heard. Now, what do you think about this? Do you support what Danielle Smith is proposing? I'd love to hear your comments. All right, guys, this is it. The good, the bad, and the ugly. I hope this gave you some clarity on the situation and clear up the population confusion. Until next time, stay well and see you in the next one.